All right, let's talk about one of Azure DevOps' most powerful but maybe underused features, customization. We're going to dive into how you can stop wrestling with those default settings and actually build a workflow that feels like it was made just for your team.
You know the feeling, right? You get this amazing, powerful new tool, but then you spend all your time fighting it, trying to cram your team's unique process into these rigid, pre-made boxes. It just doesn't feel right. So you have to ask yourself, are these standard templates actually holding you back?
So the key to all of this is what's called the process template. I like to think of it like this. Azure DevOps is the powerful engine of a car, right? The process template, well, that's the custom dashboard you get to build. It's how you control the engine. It defines everything, the rules of the road, the workflow, even the specific terms your team uses day to day.
But what are we really talking about when we say customization? At its core, it's about tailoring. It's taking those standard agile frameworks and, bending them, shaping them, adding your own flavor until they perfectly match what your business actually needs. It's about making the tool speak your language, not the other way around.
Okay, so before you can start customizing, you need a starting point. And the good news is, Azure DevOps doesn't just throw you into the deep end with a blank page. It gives you some really solid default processes to use as your foundation. Let's check them out. So you've got 3 main flavors to choose from right out of the box: Agile, Scrum, and CMMI. The Agile one is perfect if your team lives and breathes user stories for tracking development and testing. The Scrum template, well, that's laser-focused on teams that work with product backlog items, or PBIs. And then there's CMMI, which is for teams that need a more formal, structured process where having a clear audit trail is super important.
And look, these defaults are great. They're fantastic starting points, but that's exactly what they are, starting points. The real magic, that feeling of a team just clicking and being super efficient, that comes from making the tool work for you. All right, let's get into the fun stuff, the how-to. And the most basic, fundamental place to start customizing is with the very building blocks of your project, the work items. And you have a ton of control here. I mean, you can tweak the standard stuff like user stories or bugs, or just create completely new ones from scratch. Think about it. What if your team needs to track something really specific like a customer impact score? You can just add that field, and boom, suddenly your planning meetings are focused on what really matters to your users. And you can make it a text box, a number, a drop-down list, whatever you need to keep that data clean and consistent.
Okay, now we're getting to the really powerful part. We're talking about defining your team's actual workflow. This goes way beyond just tracking a list of tasks. This is about mapping your entire process, from the very first idea all the way to done.
You know, the classic to-do, doing, done is fine for some. But let's be real, most teams have a more nuanced process. What if you need a specific step for peer review or a ready for QA column? Well, you can do that. You can add, remove, or even just rename any of these states so the board perfectly reflects how your team actually gets work done.
And get this, it's not just about the columns on the board. You can actually define the path a task takes between them. So for example, you could set up a rule that says a task can't just jump from active straight to closed. Nope, it has to go through resolved first. That level of control over your process is, well, it's a game changer. But this whole customization thing isn't just about the back-end logic. It's also about making life easier for your team and making sure the data you're collecting is actually useful. So, how do we do that? Just take a look at the difference here. On one side, you have the standard, kind of cluttered form, and on the other, a custom layout. See how much cleaner that is? You can literally drag and drop the most important fields right to the top, create logical sections for things, and just hide all the stuff you don't need. It instantly makes the whole interface less noisy and easier to use. And to make sure your data is solid, you can set up rules. You can make a field required before someone can change its status, or set default values to save everyone a few clicks. My favorite is conditional rules. Like, you can set it so the resolution field only becomes required when the task is moved to resolved. It's brilliant, because it makes sure you get the right info exactly when you need it. Okay, so you've done it. You've built the perfect process for your team. Amazing! But what happens when you have 10 teams or 50? How do you scale this without it becoming a total mess? That's where governance becomes really important. So Azure DevOps has this clever system called an inheritance model. Basically, you can create one master process for your whole organization. Then individual teams can inherit that process and make their own small adjustments without messing up the original.
You can lock things down with permissions too, so you know your core standards are being followed everywhere. It's a really smart way to keep things consistent but still flexible.
And that really gets to the heart of it all, as the source material puts it so well. What we're doing here is enabling a system that is flexible, scalable, and truly specific to your organization. It's way more than just adding a few fields. It's about building the exact tool you need.
So I want you to think about this for a second. When you picture your team's current workflow, what's the one thing, that one little pain point, that one custom field you wish you had, or that one extra step in the process that would make everything smoother? What's the first thing you would customize?